So I already made a video explaining some of these questions. Let's go back and work on the rest of these, or not the rest, but some other ones, all right? So let's say I wanted to determine whether it was arithmetic or geometric. Arithmetic has a common difference, geometric has a common ratio. So if you take a look at number 6, for example, now you could do all this on the calculator. So on the calculator, you could type in you could type in -1 divided by 8, and that represents -1/8. And then you could try to divide it by the previous one, which is 3/8, 3 divided by 8. And it'll give you a certain value, and it's not going to be consistent when you check it with the other ones. So it's not geometric because there is no common ratio. But there is a common difference. If you take a number and subtract the previous one from it, let me show my work here. -1/8, take away 3/8. There's going to be a common difference right here. -1/8, take away 3/8. You do have a common denominator, which means you could subtract the numerator with the numerator. So what's -1 take away 3? That's -4. And -4 over 8 reduces down to -1/2. Does that make sense? Now let's pick another two numbers. Maybe I'll pick the -1/8 and the -5/8. So I'm going to take -5/8 and subtract the previous one from it, which is -1/8. You do have a common denominator, 8 and 8, so you just simply do -5 plus 1 because the minus changes to plus. So -5 plus 1 is -4. And it's over the common denominator 8. And once again, -4/8 reduces down to -1/2. So there really is a common difference here of -1/2. And it has to work on all of them. If I do check the final one, -9/8 minus -5/8. If I go -9/8 minus -5/8, again, the minus changes to plus. You have a common denominator 8, so it's going to be an 8 down there. Now when you go -9 plus 5, that's -4. And -4/8 reduces down to -1/2 as well. So number 6 has a common difference between all of its numbers, and that common difference is -1/2. Is everybody with me? So number 6 is arithmetic. That took a long time. Let's take a look at another question. Pick one. 7? It says find the next 3 terms, and they tell you it's a geometric sequence. So we already know it has a common ratio because they're telling us that it's geometric. So what is that common ratio, and how do you find it? It says on the board on our notes right here, to find R, pick a number and then divide it by the previous number. So the easiest one to pick would be 100 divided by the previous one, 500. Let me write that out. I'm going to find the common ratio to this geometric sequence. How do I know it's geometric, Vanessa? Because it says it on the instructions. It's geometric. So the common ratio is 100 divided by 500. And if you reduce that, you really end up with the common ratio being 1/5. So once you have that common ratio, yes, you could create your a sub nth rule by doing a sub n equals a sub 1 times the common ratio r to the n minus 1 power. But it's really just the next 3 terms that they want, so you don't have to go to all of this trouble. All you have to realize is from 2,500 to get to 500, they actually multiply by that common ratio 1/5. So on a calculator, if you did go 2,500 times 1/5, it's the same thing as dividing by 5, you'll get 500. And then from 500, if you multiply that by 1/5, you'll get 100. And then 100 times 1/5, that will be your next term. Okay, so I might as well get you used to the notation. Your a sub 1 term, that's your first number, that's 2,500. Your a sub second term, that's 500. Your a sub third term, your third number on this list is 100. Now, your next term, your a sub fourth term, will be 100 times 1/5. That's going to be your next term. Now 100 times 1/5, if you put the 100 over 1, you're going to end up with 100 divided by 5, and that's really just 20. Are you with me? So the fourth number on your list, the next number, a sub 4, that's really 20. So when it says find the next three numbers, that's one of them right there. What's the next one going to be?
4.
4. How did you do that? 20 times 1/5, which is really 20 divided by 4. And you will get that next number, which is 4. Are you with me? And what's the next number?
4.
You got to say 4 times 1/5, which is just 4/5, right? And that's it. We're done. We found the next three numbers, 20, 4, and 4/5. Those are the next three numbers. If you want to use the appropriate notation, a sub 4 is 20, a sub 5 is 4, a sub 6 is 4/5. Which other one would you guys like to see? 16? Oh, jumping to the word problems already? Any other ones right here? 8, 10, 11, 9, 12? 9? Okay, so we know it's, let's do number 9. We'll jump to 16 later. Right now, number 9, they tell us it's geometric. So we know it's a common ratio. What is it? Wait a minute, we already did this one in the previous video in class.
Yeah, 16.
Because your common ratio here is, oh no, we didn't do it, or did we?
No.
I don't think we did it. Okay, so let's do the common ratio. You take a number divided by the previous one. So the common ratio is -6, right? Now, they want the next three terms. So you don't have to write the whole rule. All you have to do is understand that from this number to this number, it changes by multiplying by the common ratio -6. So -4 times -6 is positive 24. Positive 24 times -6 is -144. -144 times -6 will get you your next number. Anybody have a calculator? So what's -144 times -6? 864? Okay, so that's your next number right there. That's one answer. And then take 864 and multiply it by -6. -5,184? And the last one, take that -5,184 and multiply it by -6 again. 104? So those are your next three numbers right there. 1, 2, 3. Technically, this is your a sub 4th number, a sub 5th number, a sub 6th number. I'm just using the notation to refer to these numbers. Okay, so you wanted, which one? What's that one? 16? 16. It says write the equation, the a sub nth equation for the geometric sequence of this guy, and then they want you to find the 8th term. So let's start by writing down the notes. A sub n is going to be a sub 1 times r, the common ratio, to the n minus 1 power. So all we need to do is identify what a sub 1 is and plug it in right there, and also identify what r is and plug it in inside parentheses. So what is a sub 1? Esteban, what's a sub 1? -8. So we're going to put a -8 right there. And then we have the parentheses. And what is your common ratio? Is it -1/4 or positive 1/4? Positive 1/4. Now let's go back to the instructions. How do you find r? You pick a number and divide the previous number with it, right? So check it out, guys. I'm going to take -2 and divide it by -8. So I'm going to show you the ratio work right here. I'm going to take -2 and divide it by -8. Now we know that a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 2 over 8 reduces down to 1/4. So your common ratio really is 1/4. And when you plug in that 1/4 inside the parentheses, you actually have your equation, because the rest is just, a sub n is just the name of it, n minus 1 power is the exponent. So ladies and gentlemen, there's your a sub nth rule. Now, this rule produces the list. If I were to plug in a 1 right here, it's going to give you your first number, -8. If I were to plug in a 2 right there, it'll give me my second number, -2. If I do all the math, it'll give me the second number, negative 2. So what are they asking for? They want the 8th number?
Yeah.
Double check. It says find the 8th term, right? The 8th term. So I want to find the 8th term. So the notation for 8th term is this, a sub 8. That's not doing any math. That's just saying that I'm going to plug in 8. So you don't even need this part, but I'm going to write it anyway so you'll know that I'm plugging in 8. So my actual equation is going to read negative 8, because that's what it says here after all. And then parentheses 1/4, parentheses 1/4 to the n minus 1 power. But keep in mind that I'm actually going to be plugging in an 8 in place of the n. So here on the n, I'm going to put an 8 right there. And it's going to say 8 take away 1. So the math that I have to do with the calculator is negative 8 times 1/4 to the what power?
7.
To the 7th power. And the calculator does the rest for you. Okay? Now, of course, you could do this by hand, but why mess with it by hand? Let's use a calculator. So if you type it in with the calculator, I mean, especially with the Casio, it'll give you the answer as a fraction, negative 1 over 2048. But the Texas Instrument will not give it to you as a fraction. Texas Instrument, if you type this in exactly the way it is, it'll give it to you as a decimal, negative 0.000488, and so on and so on. But it's still the same thing, still the same answer. Might as well go for 18. It says write an equation for the nth term of the geometric sequence. So we know it's geometric. What is the common ratio? What is the common ratio? How do you find the common ratio? Esteban? So on the board it says pick a number and divide it by the previous number. So you're saying pick 3 over 10? Okay, so you're saying pick 3 over 10. Why did I put 8? I don't know. Here we go. 3 over 10. And we're going to divide it by the previous number. Here's 3/10. What's the previous number? 3/100ths. So I'm going to divide it by 3/100ths. Now that sounds confusing, but it's not. When you divide by a fraction, you simply multiply by the reciprocal of the second fraction. So in other words, r is going to equal, the first one doesn't change, it's still 3/10. But the second fraction, first of all, it changes to multiplication, and then you flip it, make it 100 over 3. Right? I mean, you can do it on a calculator if you want, but it's so easy. Why use a calculator? Right here, the 3's cancel, and then you end up with 100 divided by 10. What's 100 divided by 10? It's just 10. So your r is really just 10. Your common ratio is just 10. Okay, so you want to write the a sub nth rule. You're going to have to know the common ratio. You're also going to have to know your first term. What's your first term? 3 over 100. And of course, you need to have the a sub nth rule memorized. A sub n equals a sub 1 times the common ratio r to the n minus 1 power. So let's just plug in what we know. We're going to have a sub n equals a sub 1. A sub 1 we said was 300 or 3 over 100 times the common ratio, which we know is 10, and it's all to the n minus 1 power. Believe it or not, this is the machine that produces the list that you have up there on number 18. So if I plugged in 1, I'd get 3 over 100. If I plugged in the number 3, I would get the third number, which is 3. Okay? But they want the 9th number, right? They want the 9th number. So I'm going to write it as a sub 9. That's just the notation saying that I'm going to plug in 9 into my rule. And a sub 9 will be 3 over 100 times 10 to the 9 minus 1 power, because I'm plugging in 9 in place of n, so it's 9 minus 1. So the math that you're going to do on a calculator is 3 over 100 times 10 to the 8th power. I don't know. I don't have a calculator. I didn't do it. What did you guys get? 3 million? Okay. So 3 comma with 6 zeros. So yes, a to the 9th, a sub 9, your 9th term on this sequence is 3 million.